He found 2 babies in a dumpster. 20 years later, they gave him this welcome to our storytelling channel, where every day brings a new tale that stirs the heart. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss tomorrow's special story. It might just be the one that changes how you see the world. Raymond Turner had never been the kind of man people noticed. At 61, with a weathered face and hands calloused from a life of labor, he drifted through the back streets of Denver with nothing but a rattling shopping cart and the memories of a life that once was. He wore an old flannel jacket, faded and torn, and a baseball cap too thin to keep out the winter chill. Most people passed him by without a glance, seeing only another homeless man on the margins of society. But Raymond was more than his appearance. Once he had run a small radio repair shop on the corner of 8th and Grant, where the air always smelled like solder and vinyl, and music drifted softly from dusty speakers he brought back to life. His wife, Elaine, used to sit beside him with a warm smile, helping with receipts while their son, Max, played with wires on the counter, calling him Dad, the fixer of all things. But that life was long gone. After Elaine's long illness drained their savings and her passing broke his heart, Raymond sold the shop, gave away most of his belongings, and eventually found himself on the streets. Max, only 17 at the time, blamed him. They argued, said things they couldn't take back, and one day Max vanished. No goodbye, no forwarding address. From that moment on, Raymond stopped fixing things. Instead, he walked. Every morning, no matter how cold it was, he'd make his rounds through alleys and quiet neighborhoods, collecting broken objects, radios, flashlights, torn books, as if saving pieces of the world might somehow save himself. He never begged. He never complained. He just moved forward step by step with quiet dignity. That cold morning in November, the temperature barely hit 35 degrees, and the clouds hung low like a warning. Raymond shuffled behind Westbrook Grocery, following his usual route to check the dumpsters for bruised fruit or discarded bread. But as he passed the large green dumpster, he heard something, a thin, shaky cry. At first he thought it was a kitten, but no, this sound was different. High-pitched, desperate, human. His heart clenched. Slowly, he lifted the heavy lid, and what he saw stopped him in his tracks. 2 newborn babies lay between black trash bags, one boy, one girl, barely wrapped in a stained towel. The boy whimpered softly, his tiny fingers curled. The girl was barely breathing, her skin cool to the touch. For a second, the world stood still. Then Raymond moved. He tore off his jacket, wrapped them tightly, pressed them against his chest. "You're okay, little ones," he whispered, voice cracking. "I've got you now." Without thinking, he began to run, past frozen puddles, past blinking crosswalks, until he reached St. Anne's Hospital. His legs burned, his arms shook, but he didn't stop. At the reception desk, barely able to speak, he gasped, "Please, help them." That moment, that choice, made with no thought of reward, would change everything. Raymond didn't sleep that night. He sat in a hard plastic chair outside the neonatal unit of St. Anne's Hospital, his jacket gone, his shirt damp with sweat and melted snow. The hospital buzzed with activity around him, nurses rushing by, machines beeping, carts rolling across, tiled floors. But Raymond remained still, eyes fixed on the small window to the nursery. Inside, the 2 babies were wrapped in warm blankets, tiny faces barely visible beneath soft hats. The staff had given them temporary names, Lucas and Lila. The boy, Lucas, had responded quickly to the heat and oxygen. Lila, however, was quieter, fragile. The nurses said her breathing was shallow, but she was holding on. Raymond couldn't explain the feeling that gripped him. He had no idea where they came from, why someone would throw them away like yesterday's trash. But he knew one thing: those babies mattered, more than anything had in a long, long time. Clara, the kind nurse who had first spoken to him, brought him a cup of coffee and a dry pair of socks. "You did something incredible today," she said softly. He didn't know how to respond. He Didn't feel like a hero. He felt responsible, as if the moment he opened that dumpster, a silent promise had been made. For the next few weeks, Raymond returned to the hospital every day. He never asked to hold the babies. He just sat, sometimes, for hours, watching through the glass as they gained color and strength. Lucas would kick his legs when music played in the room. Lila, still the quieter one, curled her fingers into tiny fists when she slept. The nurses started to recognize him. Clara would sit with him during her breaks, chatting about the babies, their progress, their personalities, and slowly something began to shift in Raymond. He started to smile again. He laughed quietly when Lucas burped loudly. He told Clara that Lila had the same nose as his wife Elaine, but Raymond knew better than to get too comfortable. Good things in his experience didn't stick around. And then, it happened. One cold afternoon, Clara approached with a tight look on her face. "Social services came today," she said gently. "They're placing Lucas and Lila into foster care." Raymond's heart sank. "I tried to ask if you could," she paused, eyes heavy. "But you don't have a home, or income, or any legal ground." "They said it's not possible." He stood silently, hands clenched. He had no right to protest. The system didn't make exceptions for men like him. That evening he watched as the twins were wheeled away in 2 separate carriers, each tucked beneath a soft blanket. Raymond pressed his hand to the glass, a silent goodbye in his eyes. Clara stood beside him. "You saved them," she whispered. "That will always matter." He nodded, his voice caught in his throat. And just like that, they were gone. After the twins were taken into foster care, Raymond felt emptier than ever. He didn't cry that night. He just walked. Through the quiet streets of Denver, past shuttered shops and glowing windows, he walked, until his legs gave out and he collapsed on a bus bench near the river. He stared at the sky, wondering if Lucas and Lila were warm, if someone was singing to them, if they'd grow up knowing they were wanted, even if it had only been for a few short weeks. The next morning, Raymond returned to his rhythm. He moved back into Haven House Shelter, sharing a bunk and simple meals with others who, like him, carried the weight of what life had taken. He didn't talk much, but he worked, fixing broken radios, rewiring old lamps, and tightening loose wheels. On donated strollers, if something was busted, Raymond found a way to breathe life into it. People at the shelter began calling him the fixer. Kids came by with old toys. Veterans asked for help with walkers, and every time he touched something broken, a piece of him felt a little less shattered. Still, every year on November 3rd, the day he found the twins, Raymond walked back to that same alley behind Westbrook Grocery. He never told anyone why. He'd just stand there in silence, sometimes leaving behind a scarf, a pair of baby mittens, or a soft blanket folded neatly by the dumpster. It was his way of saying thank you, not to the person who abandoned them, but to the moment that had reminded him he still had a heart. 2 decades passed like pages in a worn-out book. Raymond was now 81. His beard was completely white, his fingers stiff, his back curved with time. He still stayed at the shelter, still fixed what others threw away, still walked with a quiet purpose. But deep down, he believed he'd never see Lucas or Lila again. He didn't even know if they'd kept their names. He never searched. He didn't want to intrude. All he hoped for was that they were safe, loved, and never knew the cold of that alley. Then one rainy afternoon in early December, something happened. A staff member at the shelter handed Raymond a fancy envelope with gold trim. He nearly tossed, thinking it was a mistake. No one sent him mail. But there it was, his name handwritten in careful cursive, Mr. Raymond Turner. Inside, on parchment paper, was a message that stopped his breath. "Dear Mr. Turner, you once saved 2 lives. We never forgot. You are invited to be our guest of honor. Please come to the Riverside Banquet Hall, December 12th, 6 p.m. Formal attire. Not required, just bring yourself." There was no signature. Raymond stared at the letter for a long time. His hands trembled. The ink looked familiar, the words too personal to be random. Was it them? For the first time in years, hope didn't feel like a memory. It felt real, and it had a date. On the evening of December 12th, Raymond stood in front of a mirror at the shelter, trying to steady his hands as he buttoned up a second-hand shirt. It was the cleanest he had, light blue with slightly frayed cuffs. A volunteer had found him, a navy coat just his size, and someone else had slipped him a small tin of shoe polish. His old brown loafers shined faintly under the flickering hallway light. He ran a comb through his white hair, took one long look at himself and whispered, "Let's see if this is real." The shuttle bus rolled through the city, headlights reflecting off wet pavement. Raymond sat near the back, gripping the invitation like it might disappear if he let go. When the bus pulled up to Riverside Banquet Hall, he hesitated. The building glowed with golden lights. Through the glass doors, he could see people in gowns and suits, laughing, chatting, holding drinks that sparkled in fluted glasses. He suddenly felt out of place, an old man in borrowed clothes carrying nothing but memories. But then a hostess at the door looked up and smiled. "Mr. Raymond Turner?" she asked warmly. He nodded. "Right this way." The hall was breathtaking. Chandeliers shimmered from above, and a soft piano played in the background. As he was led to a seat near the front, he passed dozens of guests, all smiling, all strangers. He sat quietly, unsure of why he was there, until the lights dimmed. 2. Young men stepped onto the stage. One was lean, with a warm smile and braided hair. The other was broader, dressed in a dark blue tuxedo, confidence radiating from him. The first man took the microphone. His voice was calm, clear. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight is not just a celebration, it's a homecoming." Raymond leaned. "Dudert?" The second man spoke next. 20 years ago, my brother and I were abandoned behind a grocery store. We don't remember that day, but we know someone found us. Someone with nothing to his name who gave everything he had. A man who didn't walk away." The audience fell silent. Raymond's breath caught. "That man," the first said, eyes scanning the room, "is here tonight." The lights shifted. All eyes turned to Raymond. "Mr. Raymond Turner," the taller man said, voice thick with emotion. "You saved our lives." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Raymond felt his knees wobble. An usher gently helped him to his feet as the room erupted into a standing ovation. The two men stepped down from the stage and embraced him tightly. "I'm Lila," whispered the taller one. Yes, a woman in a tuxedo, her voice trembling. "And I'm Lucas," said the other. "You named us without knowing, and we've never stopped carrying that name with pride." Tears blurred Raymond's vision. The warmth of their embrace overwhelmed him. After all these years, they remembered. And somehow they had found their way back, to him. The applause didn't stop. Raymond stood there, surrounded by strangers on their feet, clapping like they'd known him all along. But all he could see, through the tears clouding his eyes, were Lucas and Lila, no longer the fragile infants he once cradled in a coat, but grown, strong, and full of purpose. He couldn't find the words. His voice had left him, choked by the weight of it all. Lucas held, his arm gently guiding him toward the stage. Lila offered her hand with a smile that looked so much like Elaine's, gentle, knowing, warm. Once Raymond reached the stage, the room quieted. Lila turned to the crowd, holding the microphone with steady hands. "Because of Raymond Turner," she said, "I became a cardiac surgeon. Because someone gave me a chance to live, I now help others find that same chance every day." She paused, eyes misty. "And my brother?" Lucas stepped forward. "I'm a structural engineer. I design affordable housing. I just launched a nonprofit that builds homes for families in need. Because a man with no home taught me what real shelter means." The crowd clapped again, some with tissues pressed to their cheeks. "But we're not here just to share our story," Lucas continued. "We're here to give back, to close the circle." The screen behind them lit up. A photo appeared. An image of a cozy one-story house, white siding with blue shutters, a porch swing, and a garden bed under the window. Then Lila turned to Raymond and held out a key. "This is your home now," she said. 200 square feet. "Fully paid, no rent, no strings, it's yours." Raymond froze. "No, I can't accept that," he whispered, shaking his head. "Yes, you can," Lucas said firmly. "You already paid for it, 20 years ago, with love and courage and a coat you gave away without hesitation." The room broke into applause again, louder this time. Lila smiled through tears. "There's more," she said. "You'll receive a monthly stipend, full medical coverage, and we built a small workshop out back, fully stocked, just in case you ever feel like fixing things again." Raymond's legs gave out and the siblings caught him gently. He sat down on the stage, stunned. The house, the care, the love. It was too much. He looked from Lucas to Lila, searching for answers. "Why me?" he asked, barely able to get the words out. Lucas leaned down and said softly, "Because you didn't wait for someone else to care. You were there when it mattered most." The next morning, the headlines read, "The man who saved 2 lives, saved in return." Raymond moved into his new home 2 weeks later. Neighbors brought casseroles, kids came with old radios to fix, and every Friday, Lucas and Lila came by with groceries and updates on their lives. They laughed, they sat in silence, they simply shared time. And in that quiet warmth, Raymond found something he thought he'd lost forever. Family. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, we'd love to hear from you. Stories like Raymond's remind us that even the smallest act of kindness can change lives in ways we never imagine. Have you ever experienced a moment where a stranger's compassion made a difference in your life? Or perhaps you've witnessed someone do something selfless without expecting anything in return. Share your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. It doesn't matter where you're watching from. We believe kindness connects us, all no matter the distance. Let us know your city or country below, and tell us what this story meant to you. Did it make you cry, smile, reflect? We're building a global community of empathy, one story at a time. And if this video reminded you of someone in your life, a parent, a neighbor, a teacher, a friend, feel free to tag them or share this with them. They may need this message today. Your voice matters here. So drop a comment, be part of the story, and stay with us for more unforgettable journeys.